Okay, Tom, waiting for your mic to be activated. Let's light up here.
Hi, I think I'm unmuted now. I think I can talk.
Okay, you're good. Very nice to meet you, Tom.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing great, TGIF. It's been an exciting week, like usual, and I'm sure it is for you. The universe of things that you cover would make my head explode. So, great, really great to meet you. I read about you a little bit. I went to your website and read about your bio. Everyone that's in the crypto world really knows about you, Tone, and I found it interesting that your first job was as a high school teacher, and you can't really get rich teaching high school students, can you?
Agreed.
Unless you're Richard Dreyfuss in Mr. Holland's Opus, and then you create a treasure that lasts longer than even blockchain. So then I saw, okay, you got involved in the financial world. You cut your teeth at Bear Stearns. What did you learn at Bear Stearns? Trading? Were you accumulating assets for the firm? What was your role there when you went to a big firm like that?
We were a subsidiary of Bear Stearns that did risk analysis. So we were creating these monster risk models that were used by hedge funds and fund of funds.
Okay. So, and you were there or in the business in 2008. So you saw a lot of these models blow up, especially.
Well,
no.
It wasn't like the models didn't actually blow up. I mean, the business did pretty well as far as our business was concerned in 2008. The problem was Bear Stearns blew up.
Right.
And some of that thing was just like you couldn't do proper risk for them. A lot of the risk models, especially the ones that we were doing, it's only risk under normal market conditions. And what happened in 2008 is classified as a black swan event.
Right.
So the business actually did well because there was huge demand for our services to see which hedge funds were, taking on more risk than others. The problem happened in like 2009, 2010 when so many hedge funds blew up that we had a lot less business because the companies that were paying us for these models blew up themselves. So then it became a little bit harder in like 2010. But JP Morgan took over our unit, and then actually like everything there is pretty much still functional. It's the same business. I mean, everyone needs risk analysis because fund of funds that invest in hedge funds need to know how risky those hedge funds are.
Can you apply those models to crypto?
Well, crypto, no. Bitcoin, maybe. So I'm expecting my old coworkers and the PhDs that used to write those risk models to have one specifically for Bitcoin now that it has somewhat enough data, being around for like, 6-7 years with data.
Okay. So let me ask you, was it the meltdown in the financial market you called, all you're doing in, if you're not in blockchain, it's pushing IOUs around the globe. Was that kind of a transition point for you? What at first attracted you to blockchain? How did you get involved in it?
Well, I mean, I've heard about it in the early days of like 2011, mostly because of the WikiLeaks situation. I was following the Ron Paul campaign back then. I don't know what country most of your attendees are from, but here in the U.S., there was the big presidential election of 2012, the Ron Paul campaign. And I got on that whole libertarian side and started watching alternative media. And Bitcoin kept coming up, especially in the WikiLeaks case, where WikiLeaks was doxing a lot of U.S. government files from the war, from the Iraq war, and a lot of the other stuff. And when WikiLeaks got cut off from funding by Visa, MasterCard, and PayPal, Bitcoin pretty much kept them alive with donations. So that use case was very interesting to me. And then in 2013, when Cyprus Bays got shut down and money was confiscated, I started.
You're talking about the bail-in in Cyprus?
Exactly, the Cyprus bail-in. That's what finally got me off my butt and go buy some Bitcoin because it's an unconfiscatable asset.
Okay, is that the main appeal?
That's the #1 property, I believe. The fact that it's unconfiscatable, and also the fact that you can just transfer it to anybody. It's also pretty sound money. I mean, no one can just change its economic model. So there's lots of very useful properties of Bitcoin that just nothing else has.
So let me guess here, and say that, Tone, at the beginning you were an investor in crypto, and I don't know. I mean, I thought really most people that were early adopters had to either be naive or greedy to ride it up to 18,000. You know, I know that if I buy something at 2,000 and it goes to 8, I'm pretty happy with the trade. So
that is true. If you did it as a trade, I didn't really do it as a trade. I moved my money into Bitcoin, and that's where it's still sitting.
Okay, so the valuation of Bitcoin, in any way, you have the stomach to ride out your net worth going through these types of swings because of.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely, because I talk about trading Bitcoin, but I myself just have my money in Bitcoin. It's kind of like, you know, talking about trading the US dollar and holding the US dollar. And I mean, I still trade traditional markets.
You can't compare the volatility level of the US dollar and Bitcoin. So right. I mean, there are days you could go into the grocery store, and by the time you filled up your cart, depending upon whether or not there was a, you know, $2,000, $3,000 move while you were shopping, your groceries either cost a lot less or a lot more.
I agreed on that, though I wouldn't say groceries. Maybe if I was buying a car, it would swing a lot. If I'm buying like $20, $30 worth of stuff, the fact that it swung from 7,000 to 8,000 during that hour is not really going to change that by much. It'll change it by like 50 cents.
Okay. So let me ask you about the explosion of ICOs here. You know, a lot of gumshoe type analysts in the old days, they used to, you know, not only look at the financials and, you know, you're looking at white papers, but they also used to want to know, and I notice you talk about how important it is to know the people behind the project. They also want to know who's behind the company, the management. So do you actually do on the ground type of due diligence when you're checking out ICOs, or is that an area that you're not even willing to play in?
I'm not playing in that area. I mean, I've checked out enough ICOs like when they first started launching, and to me, every single ICO is basically an unlicensed, unregistered security, and to me, it equates to a penny stock. Like even when I
say that, it reminds me of pink sheet stocks, and and then they don't these guys go out and hire syndicates that they pay them a certain amount of money, and they come in and create buying so the people that hold those coins can get out?
Pretty much. I mean, I mean, besides the orchestrated pump and dumps that take place after, like before the ICO gets launched, they basically give out those tokens to influential people and their friends, and they hype it up so that these people can get out the moment it goes to an unregulated exchange. Now, again, I don't really, if the free market wants this, that's fine. I stay away from it the way I stayed away from penny stocks when I was trading traditional markets.
Okay, yeah, and it's a great metaphor for what they are. So let me ask you about, I see that you follow on your website Armstrong Economics. I've interviewed Marty a few times. Does he have any view on crypto that you're aware of?
I mean, I did at the time. I mean, I've been to a few of his conferences, and I've just been too busy to read any of his work the last 9 to 12 months. I attended his last conference in Hong Kong about a year ago, and ever since then, I just had no time because of all the content that I'm producing. I mean, at the time, Marty felt that Bitcoin is something that the government can just squash. He saw it more as a Trojan horse for the government to like just keep around, and people get used to having digital money and then the government eliminates fiat money, and then the government somehow takes control of Bitcoin. And I tried explaining it to him that that's not actually possible. Like, it's like government saying, oh yeah, you can do your file sharing with BitTorrent, and then we'll squash that. I mean, Bitcoin is just
Or
too
how about they start
decentralized.
their own tone? They start their own without it being Bitcoin. And
Sure,
I
I mean,
was thinking that like that with why is the government letting this go? Because people are getting comfortable and embracing crypto. And there is a war on cash, right? I mean, isn't what Prime Minister Modi did? Wasn't that kind of a test case of eliminating cash and the underground economy? And did crypto help the people in India out of that situation when that was happening?
It didn't help them much because you kind of need to already have Bitcoin. And this is the problem. Like, I think that the Cyprus event of 2016, 2015 was great for Bitcoin, but not for the people in Cyprus. I mean, sorry, for Greece, not Cyprus. Sorry, Greece. I'm talking about Greece. The events in Greece with their banking shutdown in the summer of 2015 was amazing for Bitcoin. I think it basically reversed the bear market around that time. But for people in Greece, Bitcoin was useless because when your bank shut down and you don't have Bitcoin, you can't buy Bitcoin because you have no banking access. So
Right.
I think once that happens, it's the people in countries like Italy and the surrounding area are like, whoa, I better get some Bitcoin because this can happen here.
Yeah, good spread. Okay, so here I am. I'm looking at the Bitcoin chart here. I have the daily chart up, Tone. There were a lot of chart patterns that actually showed exhaustions at the high, and I'm looking at the chart now. You have a view, or it doesn't matter? Are you continuing just to, convert all your fiat to Bitcoin no matter what the price is?
Well, I'm on the opposite side. I mean, I haven't had fiat income coming in years. I mean, all my income comes in as Bitcoin, so I actually have to sell to pay my bills no matter what the price of Bitcoin is. But I continue to make daily videos predicting the price of Bitcoin. It's kind of how I made my name in this space.
What are you looking for? Do you think the bear market ended under something?
I have been saying that the bear market has not ended. This recent drive to the upside in the last few weeks, it began with a short squeeze. I mean, you see that big candle right there around April 14th, around that time. That was a short squeeze. I mean, nothing really changed in the news. Nothing changed in technologically. It was like the biggest leverage short position, 2 times bigger than at any other point. And ever since the short squeeze, I mean, that's not how markets bottom. So I remain fairly bearish, but now we're crossing that 50-day moving average. I see we're coming up on your 50% Fibonacci line. I have other resistance in this area. The trend line, if you draw a trend line connecting the prior 3 tops, you get, I mean, like we're sitting at the cusp of a giant cluster of resistance. And you see that double top before that in February and March?
Yeah, I do, around 12,000, 11,688.
Right. See, I don't actually believe in double tops. I think that double tops are just meant to be broken.
Let me ask you that. I kind of feel that way about trend lines, that their destiny is to be broken. So you have a lot of knowledge in technical trading. Who influenced you, or are you just self-taught?
It's a bit in between. I'm not self-taught. I attended an introduction to trading class. One of my friends just convinced me to go with him and take an introduction to trading technical analysis class back in. I think if you change the chart to log scale, this trend line becomes more useful.
Because it looks like on the short squeeze it cut through it.
But you're not.
I do a lot of work with RSI, and I look at whether markets momentum are confirming the low, and really this low, you had a little divergence between the last one, but not a great reading. So I don't know. I couldn't chase it up here. Maybe you buy a pullback to 7,200. So you know how to trade. You know how to trade. You teach people to trade, but you don't trade.
Well, I trade. I just don't trade a 24-hour market because I travel almost every single day, so I can't babysit a market like Bitcoin. I mean, I trade traditional. I trade options. I'm an option spread guy, so I still trade in traditional markets.
Okay.
And again, because of my travel and my schedule, I've limited my strategies to earnings season, which is actually now. So these are like my 2 weeks of trading, and then I, go back to my busy life of evangelizing Bitcoin and making videos. The plan when I quit my Wall Street job was to just trade and occasionally speak at conferences. I didn't realize that how demanding the life of a YouTuber is, and so it's just impossible to do both.
Let me ask you this, Tone. Have you noticed a correlation between the price of Bitcoin and the S&P stock indexes, that it's kind of been a temperature or thermometer for the level of speculation? If you notice, the market bottomed here in April for a rally, and that we're getting a rally in Bitcoin in April, and I'm looking for a pullback in the market. And in fact, Bitcoin peaked before the S&Ps did, kind of a leading indicator. Do you have any idea what could be behind this correlation?
No, I haven't really been paying attention to it. I think it's more of a coincidence.
Well, then you learned something from me today. So
no, I'm aware of it, but I just chalk it up to coincidence. I haven't. I don't think they're correlated.
Okay.
Fundamentally, I just don't see the connection because
animal spirits, we had a blow up. We had a parabolic move going in stocks at one of the biggest increases in a long time, and kind of a parabolic move in Bitcoin. If you know anything about trading,
right,
you could call that parabolic before it peaked.
I remain very bullish the stock market. I've been very bullish the stock market for years, and I remain very bullish on the stock market.
Okay. So let me ask you this. Do you think that Bitcoin will ever be challenged? It's kind of like the gold standard of crypto. Do you see anything out there in the future that could,
I don't.
Nothing?
I don't, because again, there are people like me with a lot more money sitting in Bitcoin. Bitcoin is actually considered store of value, but by a lot of the people, including myself. And if another crypto challenges Bitcoin, that means nobody would ever trust any crypto with a store of value property if their life savings can just disappear. So I don't see Bitcoin being challenged for that simple economic reason.
Do you have any other holdings that you believe in besides Bitcoin? I mean, the majors being Ethereum, Litecoin, Bitcoin Cash, anything else, or pure Bitcoin?
No, pure Bitcoin.
Okay.
I sold all my Bitcoin Cash first chance I could, just pure Bitcoin.
Okay. And let me show your website, Tone. I appreciate the time that you were here. This is how people could find you and follow you.
Yeah, if you go to educational tools, and there's a section there that says learn trading. So I kind of laid out all of the tools that I like to use in trading. I'm not an Elliott Wave guy. I'm not a Ichimoku Cloud guy. But I'm big on candlesticks, chart patterns, support resistance lines, which I classify as Fibonacci's, moving averages, trend lines, and I don't use them as much. My order of preference when it comes to trading is candlestick patterns, number one, chart patterns like ascending, descending triangles, cup and handles, they're number two. I'm a big fan of the Tom DeMark sequential system. That's covered in section 6. That's kind of what I brought to the crypto space. No one really knew of that trading system, and I kind of introduced a huge amount of people to it. And that's my number 3. After that, I use support resistance lines, prior highs, prior lows, Fibonacci's, trend lines, moving averages. And after that, it's the oscillators, RSI and MACD.
What do you teach people? You know, I'm a big believer in low leverage. What do you tell them to do if they're? Do you tell them to use zero leverage, or what's a max leverage that you tell people to use while trading?
This is interesting because, like, if they're trading traditional markets, I would say zero leverage as well. In crypto, it's different. By the way, that's not the only reason I don't trade crypto. One of them is because I'm just not in front of a computer enough. The other reason is I don't want to put my Bitcoin at risk. Anytime your Bitcoin sits at an exchange, it's at risk of being hacked or regulators coming in and just confiscating it, or like the exchange itself can just steal your money. So in the world of Bitcoin, I actually advise maximum leverage, but you basically use maximum leverage so that your stop loss is liquidation of your account, but then you transfer more money in next time you want to make a trade. So you don't keep, like in the stock market, like I'll keep, you can have as much money as you want, and then
you don't trust any of the places that people could trade crypto with your money. We know coming from the traditional world that, I was a commodity broker, and I always wanted to be with a clearing firm member, knowing that if something happened to the member, the exchange would make people whole. And it's really the wild, wild west out there. So,
right.
So there's no brokers in your mind that you would trust to hold your Bitcoin?
I mean, trust to a point is just unnecessary. If my Bitcoin is not in a trade, it should not be sitting at the broker or exchange. It should be sitting in my cold storage. So,
okay.
I mean, I do recommend.
How do you store it? In some type of wallet?
Yeah, you store it in a wallet. There's hardware wallets like USB thumb drives that you only connect to the internet when you have to move it. Otherwise, they're not connected to the internet, so they can't be virtually hacked. I mean, I do recommend an exchange. I have that the affiliate and referral section has one of the crypto exchanges there that I do recommend. I trust them the most out of everyone. But again, if
you have a lot of your money at any one of these places you're trading.
Correct, because like, for example, in the traditional markets, the MF Global incident is really an anomaly, but in the crypto market, that's almost the norm.
Okay. All right, so that's really excellent advice, that only put what you need to trade to make a trade in your account. The account is liquidated, your position is flat, always yank the money back into your wallet.
Yeah, that's what I recommend, because you don't want to like lose your account to an exchange hack. Again, unlike traditional brokers, they can't really be hacked because like the money is the dollar is a digital asset. It's just not decentralized, and that's the difference. Like as good as some of these exchanges securities are, a hacker is always better somewhere.
How do you handle taxes with Bitcoin?
Pretty much the same way you would any other speculative asset. So, I mean, the IRS doesn't really.
Using it to buy and sell and everything for your lifestyle. How do they know whether or not? So, what do you have, a basis for your costs, and then every time you buy something, it's like a trade that you have to report?
Not really. For me, I don't. For me, it's just like I cash out in like reasonable chunks, and then I just note at what price I converted it to, a bunch of cash.
Okay. Tone, I really appreciate you taking time to edify our community today, and I'm very open to learning about something you believe is not going away, regardless of whether there's a great reset after this great bull market. If we have another 2008, you are confident and even more bullish on crypto as being kind of a haven for people if we have an event like that down the road.
I do.
Okay, so forget about gold. It's a good, nice paperweight, and silver. You prefer crypto 100% over traditional hedges.
Absolutely, because gold is just very hard to move, and like metal detectors have created a big problem for gold as a safe haven to move it, you know, when you gotta get out of Dodge. So a crypto has done that.
Are you an international citizen where you really don't have a main home base, that you're always somewhere else and just living and breathing Bitcoin wherever you go?
Pretty much. I mean, I have an apartment in New York still, but I'm there about 3 months a year, and the other 9 months I'm everywhere else.
Okay, well, you know, I recommend anyone who has an interest in crypto, and definitely educate yourself. And Tone is somebody that I believe has a lot of credibility in the industry. He definitely was forthright with all those answers. Check them out.
My website doesn't have much new info. It's more static, but I do daily YouTube videos about technical analysis. Yeah.
So they could find your YouTube videos if they go and find you on Twitter at Tone Vays, or there's a link on your website.
Yeah, Tone Vays on YouTube. It's just under my own name. Just Google Tone Vays on YouTube, and you'll find my my shows. I'm going live in about 30 minutes with the morning news show, plus my outlook on the price.
Thank you for your time very much, Tone.
Thank you.
Good luck, and thank you for opening my eyes to me. It's like Star Trek.
Well, let me know if you want me back anytime.
All right. Thank you, Tone. Tone Vays, everybody. TGIF, I'm glad we had a great week. Remember, don't just count your pips, count your blessings, and check out crypto with Tone Vays. See everyone on Monday. Good hunting the rest of the day, and enjoy your weekend. Thank you, Tone.
Bye-bye.